What is a morpheme? Well, let's have a look at an example. Cherry trees. This is a word. It consists of morphemes. But what are these? Well, cherry, tree and S. Those are the morphemes in cherry tree. Why are they the morphemes? Well, they are the elements that have meaning. We can divide them up into cherry, which is a fruit, tree, which is a big green thing, unless it's winter, and S, which kind of means something like plural, more than one. Okay, so a morpheme can be defined as the smallest meaningful unit, the smallest element that has meaning. And the S has meaning, it means the plural. In this case, the smallest meaningful unit is just one letter, it's just one sound. In the case of cherry, it's more than one letter, more than one sound. Cherry as a whole means cherry, a fruit, whereas the Y of cherry doesn't really mean anything. And likewise, tree as a whole means the thing that has leaves in the summer, whereas tr or any other element of it doesn't really mean anything. So cherry is the smallest meaningful unit and tree is the smallest meaningful unit of those elements. Right, we can divide morphemes up into free morphemes, those that can appear on their own, like cherry and tree. They can just stand on their own, they can be words in their own right. And then there are those morphemes that can't, and we call them bound morphemes. These usually have to be attached to something else in order to make sense. So, s, if we just said s, it wouldn't mean anything, it wouldn't mean plural, it wouldn't mean more than one. But rather, the S will have to be attached to something else. And that's why we usually use a dash before the S to indicate that it needs to be attached to something else, so come after something else. And in this case, it needs to be attached to a noun, cherry trees. Right, the convention with the dash is that it appears where an element is attached. So in the case of the S, it has to be attached at the back of something. But there are other elements that are attached elsewhere. So where can morphemes appear? We've seen cherry trees, the S appears at the end, but there are also other elements where bound morphemes appear elsewhere. So in unreliable, the bound morpheme un appears before reliable. And in fun, bleeding, tastic and other swear words, we find that the bound morpheme or the element appears in the middle of a word, in the middle of a root. Right, so we really have to see where an element appears in relation to the root, in relation to the element it attaches to, and that's how we can then distinguish different types of morphemes. So when something comes after the element it attaches to, it is a suffix. When something appears before the element it attaches to, it is a prefix. And when something appears in the middle of a root, as in fun, bleeding, tastic, it is an infix. And there are many worse infixes in English. I think this is probably the lightest one we could find. Right, so let's have a look at the functions of morphemes. Morphemes also have functions, and some of those can be lexical, they can convey meaning. But morphemes can also have grammatical functions, expressing grammar. And here we can distinguish between derivation and inflection, and lexicon and grammar. And derivation and inflection is usually something we talk about when we talk about bound morphemes. Lexicon and grammar is usually something we talk about when we talk about free morphemes. But that's a whole different story and not part of this video. Thanks for listening.